Hey guys, we're going to take a look at this big ass crease dent today. More than the crease, we're going to talk about Stanliner tools and the proper applications of them. This is going to be part one of a two-part series, so check it out. Hey, what's going on? This is Jim with a real world PDR training. Today we're going to take a look at this big nasty crease on this door. I've got a bunch of Stanliner tools lined up here, and I know for sure I'm going to use at least two of them. I'm going to show you how to use these specialty tools and when. Okay, we'll go ahead and start with the one that everybody seems to want to talk about anyway. So, this is the Killer Whale Tail by Stanliner. I believe there's going to be some more available soon. This one was purchased at MTE, but it works in a much different way than you're probably used to. Yeah, all of Stanliner tools, for the most part, can be used as direct push. But there's other techniques too, like blending, sliding, and this thing. I don't even know what to call it. But that action right there, how I roll that tool back and forth, I can roll this edge across the crease, and it actually irons that crease out. So this is not a tool that you're gonna use all the time, but whenever you can and you get the right opportunity at the right moment, it pays for itself immediately. Let's talk about this Killer Whale Tail and a technique that I call rolling. I'm not sure what Stanliner calls it, but I have seen cats perform it. Let me make sure that you know that I am not Stanliner trained, but I will make every effort to stick to what I've been taught by those people who are. All the information that you see in this video has been verified by a Stanliner representative. I've seen a lot of Stanliner tools represented absolutely wrong, a lot of demonstrations by people who obviously have not used or experienced this tool very much at all. So with this technique, what you're going to be doing is a heel to toe movement. That means we are rocking this thing back and forth. So this is on top of the panel, but imagine this happening under the panel. Left to right and right to left, either way works fine with this Killer Whale Tail. Now, I did learn a lot while using this. This isn't a tool that you use really often, so I'm still learning too, to be quite honest with you. One thing that I did learn is that the corners seem to generate more force, so the edge, the very end of that roll there. I also discovered that shorter rolls are better. Again, this might be called rocking. I remember it's called something, but I'm calling it rolling. I'm not a Stanliner trainer. I'm not obligated to know. Also, I wish I would have performed this repair slightly different. One thing to keep in mind is this swooping edge is not super precise, but we've got a trick to handle that. And when I say trick, it means I figured out a thing. So check out this crease, man. It is really, really, really deep. It's also got some brace things happening over there, and it traverses pretty much the entire length of this door, all but save maybe 6 inches towards the rear. This is one of the deeper, longer creases I've had in the shop for a while, so believe you me, if it can do this, it could do just about anything. So let's get ahead and start taking a look here. Now remember that rolling, rocking action that I was talking about. So whenever I look at this video, to me it looks like it's sliding. Remember, you're not sliding this tool. There are other tools that in the Stanliner line that use a technique called dragging. Now, in this video, I don't know if it'll be part one or part two, you will see that dragging technique and how effective it can be. So just like about any crease, I am working this in sections. Now, there were some access issues with this Killer Whale Tail, so I didn't start at the very end. One thing I'm not doing is working towards the deepest part. So I inverted that video from earlier just to kind of illustrate. Now imagine that's happening on the bottom of the panel. Now, I am going to fill you in as to why I don't like to work towards the deepest part of a crease. I don't like to work towards it because as you start working towards that, it feels like you tighten up the metal that's the deepest. And you can almost imagine it happening. As you're picking up little chunks of this, you get close to that deep part and you're pulling up something, or you're pushing up rather, something right beside it. You're basically creating another crown that you have to deal with. Now, on most creases, you don't have any area that's so deep that you really have to think about it. But towards the rear of this panel, there is a really deep spot. Here's one thing that I learned. Shorter rolls and keep them towards that edge is what I prefer to do with this tool. It's really easy to get excited and try to use the whole breadth of this tool because you see so much action happening so quickly. But what ends up happening is you are pushing to one side or the other of the center of that crease. And I did that here. There's no shame in my game. Like I said, this is not a tool that I use all the time. This isn't something that I've probably done more than 6-7 dents with. So truth be told, I'm still in the learning process too. I imagine in 3 or 4 months, I'm going to be a damn killer whale tail pro. That being said, even though I've only had this particular tool since December of this year, and I've only maybe used it 6 or 7 times, there was a time that I probably would have blocked out a full day, maybe 8, 9, 10 hours to do a crease like this and to get it clean. So I'm going to say that as of part 1 is done, I'm done with my first day of this dent. I think that I have about 2 hours in it. And it is towards the last, 30%. And I'm going to finish that up tomorrow. I have never really found any tool ever that can do what these Stanliners do to creases. It really just cuts down on all that cleanup time. It cuts down on most of your stitching. If you do work these tools at a bit of an angle, you'll get something that resembles it, but not near as bad as normal crease stitching. Now, the reason that I started with the crease as opposed to knocking down that wavy where the panel impacted the intrusion bar is because this crease dent was so deep that those were actually still resting against the intrusion bars. So by doing this and by getting the meat of this dent up first, I'm actually going to create a little bit of room to breathe for that high wavy thing. Okay, so let's talk about what this is not necessarily great at. We already know what it's good at. So there are some real accessibility issues. This is the reason you're not going to use this tool all the time. The head of this tool is really, really wide. So any kind of tight areas, you can pretty well forget about it. Also, there's a very long kick. It swoops out at a fairly aggressive angle, and you're going to have to get something wide open. We gutted this door for this repair. So now that we can't reach anything else, we're going to look at the pirate hook, friends. It's not all that dissimilar, but has some unique quirks. All right, so the killer whale tail has gotten a little bit bulky like I knew it was because I scouted it out earlier. So we're going to move on to the pirate hook. Now this is the one that's got the more aggressive bend. I've actually modified this one a couple times. Shh, don't tell Kaz. And I do that quite a bit. If I need a Stanliner tool to fit somewhere it's not seeming to want to, I will bend it. I don't think they want you doing that with their tools, but I do. So the deal is, with the one that doesn't have any bend, as a matter of fact, it's got almost no kick to it at all. So that was the first one I had, and then this one, they kicked it out, which I thought was a great idea. In this situation, it was kicked out a little too heavy, so I've bent it back a hair. Now, this tool, I find, is also a lot more accurate and precise. Doesn't even pick it up. So I find that the pirate hook is a lot more accurate at getting the fine line, the very last bit of your crease out, than the whale tail is, and that's because there's more of an edge on it. If I can get a good picture, I'll show you. So let's take a look at what the pirate hook does. We're going to work it the exact same way, and that's this rocking motion. Now I like to keep most of the pressure right here towards the end because that's where you kind of have that bit of a blade. If you really sit down and think about these tools, the Stanliner tools that is, they give you little clues on how the best way to use it. So about the last third, where the pointy end of that hook is, there's a blade that runs down the edge. And that is your precision little blade tool that's going to get into that fine last little line of your crease. Now, I can still learn to be much, much more accurate with this tool, but it does a pretty dang good job. The first crease that I ever fixed using one of these was the flat one that I showed you in that video clip before, and I think we did like a 6-inch dent in something like 53 seconds. From that point on, no brainer, I'm sold, I'm keeping it, and I'm really going to start exploring these things. At this point of the repair, I had pretty well learned my lesson with the killer whale tail, and that's that these short rocking motions are much more effective than trying to use the entire length of the tool. Also, it's incredibly difficult to do with a camera in your way, but if you can look down and get that real deep view of the center of that dent, it's much better. Trying to look across, creases in general, it's hard to hit the very, very center. And now when you're doing a new technique like rocking this, it gets a little more amplified. So definitely light position is going to be huge when you're doing a repair like this. But you can see how well this is ironing that crease out. I know for a fact if I didn't have a camera in my way, but that's just an excuse, and excuses are for losers, and I had taken a little more time in this part of the repair, my cleanup work later would have been much less. As you can see right there about the middle of your screen, you can see that that's that stitching kinda effect that I'm talking about. Now, they're just these tiny little lines where I got to one side or the other of the very center of this crease. Obvious answer, slow the hell down. Learn from what you did with the killer whale tail. I might have had too long of strokes in that rocking motion, or more likely, I just wasn't using my light correctly to hit the very center. Even still, that amount of crease repaired in that amount of time with that little cleanup work to do is incredible. So if you're watching this and you're deciding, man, I just have to have one of these tools, I wouldn't get your panties in a twist there, because Kaz Hands makes these things. Kaz Hand makes these things. You should try that. That's hard to say. And imagine the shape of this. Imagine trying to form metal like this. I'm sure he's very good at what he does, but this is not going to be a huge production volume kind of thing. So I'm telling you right now, if you really need to get your hands on one of these, or both of these tools, or some more Stanliner tools, basically anytime a Stanliner tool pops up, you need to buy it today, tomorrow, because these things are hot right now. And honestly, the best time to get a Stanliner tool, the only time that you're gonna see big groups of tools available, is at some kind of trade show. So like, get to MTE like I did and just drop a couple grand, because that's how you're gonna stock up. So check this out. Here is where we were just a couple minutes ago to here. That texture is my fault because I didn't go slow enough. But still, it's not bad. This is a crease, man. Think about doing a crease any other way. Even if you start with soft tips, blah, 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 still it takes much longer than that. And up to this point in this video, I have not sped up anything other than the camera malfunction I had because it was funny. So you are currently watching this crease be repaired in real time. So that should really tell you something. We are towards the end of this dent, end being like the physical end of the dent. There was a chunk we couldn't get towards one side of the door, but I mean, I'm still gonna say this is 2 feet of crease or so that I've gotten to this point, and I'm at what, 12, 13 minutes? So that is pretty serious. That is a serious tool. It's a specialty tool. And if you see a lot of this kind of damage, it's a tool that's gonna make you a ton of money. Again, I do not remember what the price of these tools were. I believe that that bent pirate hook was a limited edition. It's kind of funny. I actually did that to my own pirate hook the day before they announced that they were doing it. And Dent Tools Freak, my other YouTube channel, was able to announce it because we basically already showed it off. So I'm not sure that one's going to be available anytime real soon. But back to my point. Let's think about it. If this was normally going to take me, let's call it 10 hours. And it might have been a little shorter than that, but let's just 10 hours. And let's say I end up with 4 hours in this dent. Well, lucky for us, we don't get paid for time. We get paid for jobs. I just created 6 hours for myself. 6 hours of time to do dents, door dings, that kind of thing. Like, that is crazy. I'm getting paid the same no matter how long it takes. So if, let's say I have 400 invested in these two tools, just for shits and grins, 400 bucks. Let's say I have 6 hours to do some wholesale work. Let's say it's averaging $120 a car, and they're taking me a half hour each. I'm not even that good at math. I'm not even going to do it. If you feel compelled, go for it. But that is going to more than make up for your investment for these tools in time. So starting now, I am going to double time this dent a little bit because right now we're just watching this rolling happen. You're not going to miss anything because it's moving a little bit faster. So you can see there, I did get a little off track. You can see the texture that I've kind of created by missing to the left and the right, but we're going to take care of that later. Also, it's not bad. I can use a precision knockdown. I think I want to use the 308 from Dead On Dent Tools and just start cleaning this up a little bit as I go. At this point in the game, even if I'm fixing a crease the good old-fashioned way, I'm not really going to trip about making every single part of it super clean. I want to keep one tool in my hand for as long as possible. So just anything that's really egregious, anything that really sticks out, that's what I'm going to flatten, because I want to get everything to roughly the same level, and then I can go knock down all at once. So this is like a damn near 3 or 3.5 foot crease. So when it comes time to actually start doing some knockdown, I'm going to have a knockdown in my hand for a long time. So again, let's go ahead and double time this video. As you can see here, I'm not hitting that line. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if I don't see it from that angle. Oh, there we go. What am I talking about? I'm all over it. But again, we're just trying to get everything to roughly the same level. I'm not trying to beat it back down. I'm going to zoom way in here, and hopefully I recorded this in high enough quality that you're going to be able to see exactly what I'm doing. But here I am just targeting that little line the best I can. I still feel at this point that the rocking that I was doing was a little too long. I think somewhere between 1/4, ½ inch, something like that is ideal. I mean, it doesn't take too much pressure, it doesn't take too much time to get those little nicks out of that crease there. So slowing down a little bit is only going to speed you up, because my cleanup process on this, I already know, is going to be longer than it needed to be. If I was better at using these pirate hooks, wouldn't have happened. If I would have slowed down a little bit, it also wouldn't have happened. But this is real world PDR. This is what I did, and you're going to get to see it. This is the same stuff from a different angle. I'm going to speed it up a little bit here so you can see how much it's actually tightening up that metal towards the middle. So even with me missing occasionally here and there, watch as I roll across this. Now this dent has already been picked up and squeezed together quite a bit, but watch that metal squeeze right there into that point. That is saving you all kinds of crazy work. Now, I want you to remember, this was not a small crease by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, let's take a look here. Not only was this thing crazy long, it was also super, super deep. Now, there is a huge affected area of metal here. So it's not just that crease you're looking at, it is to either side of it. Let's go ahead and draw an arrow to show you. So from the base to the tip of this arrow, that is the affected area that's not quite so obvious as the crease itself. As you can see, that is a whole lot of metal that needs to get pinched up into one spot. When working with super deep, very sharp creases like this one definitely was, that's got a very sharp center going through the middle of it, it is common to get a small line. So basically, I've heard it explained this way before. This isn't my words, I'm borrowing them. Imagine folding a piece of paper. So when you unfold that piece of paper, you know, it might be really relatively flat, but you can kind of see where it had been folded. So in this case, we managed to get rid of the majority of that effect here. But the fact that we had so little of any kind of evidence that this crease was ever here at the end of this is amazing. So those of you who are into this and you're ready to watch part 2 and possibly 3, you're going to see the after results of this. And man, I am just super impressed with these tools. I can't say much more about them. The amount of time they saved me on this repair alone, they've definitely paid for themselves. So fixing crease dents in different ways that aren't necessarily direct push methods isn't necessarily a new idea. So I grew up in the PDR world watching Sal Contreras' videos, and he had a recreaser tip for his dent dial. And if you go to the Dent Experts YouTube page, you can see him use that tip. Look for the Red Ferrari 360 video. What I think that these tools have done is really brought it to the masses. They made it incredibly simple to fix creases in different ways, where you're not, using traditional methods and causing an excessive amount of stitching or texture or anything like that. So this is how I like to illustrate points. I like to take everything to the extreme. So you're probably not fixing too many creases that are this large. Not a whole lot of people are, as a matter of fact. So any kind of normal sized crease, man, this thing is genius. The reason that I like to do everything on such a grand scale, like I did with my blending video, is that you can really see things happening much bigger in front of your face whenever you do things really, really grand. So I'm hoping that this is going to help you visualize the concepts, whether this thing was perfect the first time I used it or not. The concept is going to be there, and it's going to be huge in front of your eyes. So I've got a couple more angles that are much more detailed. This one's great, but check out the next one. Make sure you stick around. Now, as great as this pirate hook is as pinpointing the very, very center of that crease, looking back, I wish I would have picked up less with the killer whale tail. I wish I would have picked it up and not trying to get it so high, so I wouldn't have pinched up that very middle quite so much. So keep that in mind if you get these tools and you're trying to fix a very, very large crease this way. But that being said, look how stinking accurate I can get with this pirate hook. So I'm gonna start working the lows that are the direction that the arrow is pointing. What is to the right of the arrow has already been done. Now, watch the precision you can get out of this tool. That is a very, very sharp, very, very fine, pinched up center of a crease there. Now remember, relative beginner to this tool. So we're talking 3, 4, 5, 6 times that I've really, really used it. And this is by far, oh my gosh, this is by far the biggest. I mean, probably 10 times bigger than I have used this tool before. This dent is, 10 times sharper than anything previous to this. And as a relative beginner to this Stanliner tool, look how accurate I can get. So this is after I had decided to slow down and really try to pinpoint what I was doing. That being said, accidents happen. Now I'm gonna miss here just a hair. Check it out. Okay, you can see my little test pushes there are just to the outside of the middle of that crease. When you've got the pit of this crease that is so fine and so sharp, there is not a huge margin of error. So as I'm pushing this up just to the outside of that, so remember, the way we're viewing this is actually how I'm pushing it. We're almost in line. The light is now blocked by this high spot that I've created. So instead of realizing that it's happened, I doubled down on it. I went over it 2 or 3 times more. So there I am moving my light like, ah, shit. Definitely could have not done that. So what I did is I moved my light in a more intelligent way for actually fixing this dent, but it doesn't give you quite the good view. So what I did is I made sure that the light was directly in line with my eyes. I was pushing down. I could see directly down into the center of that long crease. And you're gonna see that because I positioned my light correctly, and sorry guys, stop worrying about you so much, I was able to hit the exact dead center of this crease. It's kind of funny. You need to keep in mind that a lot of times when I'm fixing this damage on camera, I am actually wrapped around a camera. My arms on either side of it, or with my face damn near pressed up against it. So, hey, check it out. There I am. There's the accuracy. It's all about light position and taking your time. You could probably also notice that the rocking that I've done has gotten significantly shorter. So you can see where the pressure goes right there, and then I'll release, but that's not me actually pushing. The pressure is not exceeding probably a 1/2 of an inch. I'm taking my time now, and the results are much, much better. That being said, even as the results were half as good as they are, it still would have saved me a ton of time over trying to push this in any kind of traditional method whatsoever. So up to this point, what have we learned? First thing that I've learned is I want to use each individual tool to its strengths. So I am not Kaz. I am not as good with any of these tools as he is. He designed the damn things, for the love of God. But for me, a relative beginner to using this type of tool, I would have pushed less with the killer whale tail. I would have used that to get more bulk out of the dent. What that would have prevented is that pinched up little center there. So if I would have got it, let's say 20% less up with that, then I would have followed up with that pirate hook. And while it wasn't so pinchy, it was going to be sharp either way, but that pirate hook is just so dang accurate if you take your time. I really feel like this could have been gotten absolutely clean, mostly with those 2 tools used like that. So if you plan to buy these tools, or if you've had these tools and they've been sitting in the corner with you not knowing what the hell to do with them, hey, learn from my mistakes. Try whatever you want to, but I would definitely recommend that you can see what I did. You can see what I would have rather done. Don't make the same mistake that I did, and learn from that. Second thing that we have learned at this point is to slow the flip down. So it gets really exciting when you see that much metal moving that cleanly. But that does not really justify you getting all crazy and willy-nilly with this thing. And I think I suffered from a little bit of that, maybe a little bit of a lack of patience. I found with this rocking motion that we're using, a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, something small is what's going to keep you accurate. Super, super focused, super, super tight. And if you use the tools in this manner, you're going to have great results. Either way, this dent turns out fantastic in a fraction of the time that I would have spent. So even making mistakes with this tool is a hell of a lot cleaner and faster than doing everything right with a different, more traditional method. Now, hopefully, if you're watching this video, it's because you are a fan and you're appreciative of the kind of things that I put out, and you might have watched my recent Knockdown video. So here I'm using that knocker tip that I talked about. There isn't a ton of pressure now trapped in those waves. Now, I'm still going to create a little bit of texture, and at this point, I don't care because I know that I'm going to be knocking this down, and I'm going to have to get it cleaned up regardless. There's just so much going on with these waves that were pressed against the intrusion bar there that it's just going to happen. So I'm not really sweating the small stuff. I'm not really trying to knock this down super duper clean, but at the same time, I don't want to jack it up real bad. So a flat tip like this is a great option when you're in that kind of situation. Here momentarily, I am going to grab my hammer that has the Craftsman tip on the end that I talked about in that previous video also. A slapper tapper would have been another great option here, but I just grabbed what was close in this scenario. So the reason that I've waited till now to really deal and dig into these waves that are down here is because when that panel was so caved in with that crease, when I tried to knock down on these before, I kind of discovered that those little points that were still jammed up against that bar in there and they didn't want to move. But now that I've lifted that crease and the surrounding metal that came with it, it's loosened up significantly. In hindsight here, I probably would have grabbed my slapper tapper instead had I been thinking clearly. So the deal with large damage like this that I'm going to be taking videos of is that I really don't have much time to do it until after work hours. We try to get 10 to 14 cars through every single day, and getting stuck on one leaves Casper with a whole lot of extra work to do. So sometimes my motivation and brain function aren't at their peak. Like I said, I just grabbed this Craftsman hammer. Now, hey, the Craftsman tips rather, they are great tools, but in this situation, if you have a choice, I would probably grab your slapper tapper. It's going to make everything much cleaner. As you can see here, I'm bashing a pretty significant amount of work into that for myself. Now, I am always going to be the first to call myself out when I make a mistake, so stop yelling at me in the comments. I know what I did. I just told you what I did. Either way, this was going to need some cleanup work, so I'm not really concerned about it. This is really easy to do here. So now that I have called myself out adequately, I'm going to speed this up here to a couple times speed, just so we can get through this little bit here. So basically all I'm doing is I'm working up and down that little wave. Also, tech tip for myself and everybody I've showed it to, if you are using a flat tip like this knocker here, use a hammer. Try the difference between a hammer and a paddle. I have found that I enjoy a hammer more. I actually like a little more power behind these flat tips than the paddle is going to give me. If you actually pay really close attention, you can see that I'm hitting it with the side of my paddle to try to compensate for that. Why I didn't walk the 6 feet to grab a hammer? Again, hey, I think at this time it's like 9 o'clock at night and I've already worked all day. Give me a break. Okay, here in a second, I'm going to speed this up again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and anything that I still see is high, like these little points are, what those points are actually, it's some kind of hard glue type stuff that keeps the panel attached to that bar. Now that I've created a little bit of space by getting the giant caved in area with that crease up, they actually move pretty well. You can see there with that hammer, that one went down fabulous, not too bad. Now it's those little points in between that are kind of the rainbow shape is going to be most of the cleanup work later. But man, they're so shallow, and I'm going to use another Stanliner that I'm going to explain to get those piece of cake. Also around about this time, since I already have my hammer in my hand and my knockdowns around, I'm going to go ahead and from this direction see what I still perceive to be high and nab everything that I can. We're not quite to the point where I'm going to worry a whole lot about making sure everything is completely flat, but since we're here, since we're doing it, since we're looking at this damage from this direction now, let's go ahead and get to cleaning up some. Now I use a hammer, and later on I do use a knockdown, but you have seen a ton of that. I'm not even sure if I want to include it. Basically, I just want you to understand that I did not use this ball tip on the end of this hammer for the entire knockdown work across this crease. So don't think that's what happened. We did whip out a knockdown when working it from this angle. Now we're going to work this crease from a lot of different angles, and later on in this video I want to explain why. So this version that I'm throwing on YouTube is more of a Stanliner tutorial than it is a crease tutorial. Now the whole shebango is already an hour and a half, and I keep adding more stuff. So I do imagine that I'm going to end up breaking this into 2 or 3 or even 4 different parts that are all going to be available at realworldpdr.com, but you at least got to see 2 awesome Stanliner tools if you're watching this on YouTube. So what we saw was the killer whale tail and one of its functions. There's more? Yes, man, all of Stanliner's tools are completely multifunctional. I'm going to cover all of them that I know at realworldpdr.com. Also, the pirate hook. Yes, that's a multifunctional tool as well. Now, the things we learned together here on this video is, first of all, slow down. Slowing down is going to speed up your cleanup a lot. Even still, making minor mistakes with this tool is a hell of a lot cleaner and faster than using traditional methods on a large crease like this. The second thing we learned is definitely use the strengths of each tool to your advantage. Don't try to force any tool into doing something that another one's doing better. So for me, in this instance, as a beginner, the killer whale tail is really great. I wish I would have used it a little less and the pirate hook a little more because it's more accurate for me. The next tools that we're going to tackle in this monster of a tutorial are the snakes and swords tools from Stanliner. 2 of my absolute favorites. They're more similar to what you're used to, but they have a lot of secret uses as well. And finally, we're going to look at the fishtail tool. Now, this is one of those that I think is so underrated from Stanliner and deserves 10 times the attention that it's getting. So even though this free tutorial is jam-packed with killer crazy great information, the whole thing, the 1.5, maybe even 2 hours, depending on what I add, is going to be available at www.realworldpdr.com, and I should be dropping the whole thing early next week. But for now, take a sneak peek at what's to come in that video. All right, so now I have reached about what I can with that pirate hook and that killer whale tail. Now I'm moving on to a snake. Now you've all seen this set, and you know it makes a good direct push tool. But I bet you didn't know that it makes an even better dragging tool. Check it out. I'm going to show you how to use this tool as it was designed for fixing creases. I've seen some misinformation spread around about this, and I have talked to representatives of Stanliner, and they have told me exactly what to do, and I'm going to show you. If you've made it through all 33 minutes of this tutorial video, you are clearly a true fan, a real tech wanting to get real knowledge. I feel like it's time for us to do a giveaway. We are approaching our 3,000th subscriber today in April of 2019. Your secret word is Gunsmoke. Now, that's in honor of our shop manager and RNI feller, Steve. He watches that show, I don't know why, but hang on to that. And at the end of the next video that I post to YouTube, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do to that. And what you're going to get is a chance to take any tool from my shop. The only tools that I'm going to exclude are the killer whale tail, any dent dial product, and the doodah. Only reason is they are going to be super damned hard for me to replace in any kind of time frame that's reasonable. But all of my Stanliner tools, other than the killer whale tail, all of my Excalibur tools, every last one of my tools, I will show you my tool wall, you pick one, and I will send it to you. So remember, Gunsmoke, hang on to that, that's your word. If you've made it this far into this video, you are a true badass and I love you. Thank you so much for your current and continued support. Remember, keep an eye out for the next YouTube video coming out. Something big's gonna happen. Thanks, guys. Oh yeah, I think I'm also going to throw in a hail light and a light stand. Shh. The key word for that one is going to be bonanza. I bet everybody who signed off when I said bye is going to be sorry now.